One of my favorite things to do as a game master is to take a character or plot thread from a movie or book and drop it into a tabletop role-playing game session. It's fun for me, and it's usually easier to run things I'm familiar with. If I base an NPC on John Wick, I don't have to think too hard about how to roleplay him. Maybe the players know it, maybe they don't. It can be fun to invite your friends over for a fantasy die-hard D&D one-shot. But it's maybe even more fun when you just invite them over for a one-shot and then they slowly realize what's happening when they're locked inside the wizard's tower while the cultists are trying to break through arcane wards on the vault in the basement. The looks on their faces when they go, "Wait a second, is this fantasy Die Hard?" Priceless. My name is GM Jim Heskett, and I'm here to take you on a radical ride today. We're not doing Die Hard though. We're going to talk about the lesser-known 1989 dual Corey classic movie Dream a Little Dream, and I'm going to tell you how to turn it into an amazing tabletop role-playing game adventure. No, seriously, don't believe me? Just watch. This could be a one-shot or maybe 2 to 3 sessions of side quest during a longer campaign. This video is going to be in 2 halves, where I first discuss the plot of the movie and set up the seeds to turn it into adventure hooks. Then in the second half, we'll build the adventure proper, and if you watch to the end, there's gonna be a twist that I bet you won't see coming. Okay, Dream a Little Dream. The movie opens with our teen protagonist Bobby, played by Corey Feldman in his 1980s bohemian look. He's chatting with his sidekick, Dinger.
Dinger, wake up for a minute. I gotta talk to you, buddy.
Dinger is not important to the plot, so we can ignore him going forward. Sorry, Corey Haim, rest in peace.
Tom, I don't have a watch. I never had a watch. Why'd I look at my wrist?
Right away, Bobby confesses his problem. He's in love with Lainey, but she already has a boyfriend. This is Bobby's central conflict, one of the 2 main plot threads. We'll get to the other one in a second. Lainey is played by a young Meredith Salinger, who was definitely my first crush. But there is a separate male protagonist for this movie, gray-headed Coleman, played by Jason Robards. That's right, this is a body-switching movie, which was a cash cow in the 1980s. This is maybe the best of them, though. I actually think this cheesy movie is pretty smart in a few key ways, which I'll highlight as we go along. Anyway, Coleman is married to Gina.
I love you.
I love you, too.
I know this is already a lot of characters to remember. Don't worry, we're going to use visual aids as we go along to keep track of everyone. So far, we have Bobby and Lainey, Coleman and Gina. These 2 couples make up our core and are the main NPCs we need to care about. You need to know 3 pieces of exposition about Coleman. 1, he loves his wife Gina. 2, he's into movement meditation with the intent of entering a lucid dream while being awake. And 3, that teen Bobby and his friends disrespectfully use Coleman's yard as a shortcut to get to school. This might seem trivial, but is actually very important information. Because in the Act 1 climax, set to a timeless Van Morrison track I can't play due to copyright reasons, the first big plot point happens. Coleman and Gina are meditating in their yard in a kind of implied magic ritual, waving their hands around like hippies slow dancing at Burning Man. Meanwhile, Lainey is in the middle of a makeout sesh nearby at the school, but runs away from her creepy boyfriend when he won't take no for an answer.
Stop telling me to relax. No, it's not, Joel. Relax. Stop it.
Distraught, Lainey takes the shortcut and runs through Coleman and Gina's yard, just as Bobby also arrives running from a different direction, then bam, everyone collides. Somehow this causes a body switch, just accept it and move on. Coleman wakes up as Bobby, the punk kid who trampled his flowers. Can you believe it?
Oh my God. I'm him. Shit!
Then he goes into a dream world, kind of like the Upside Down or a Shadow Realm, where Gina has vanished, and a version of Bobby is there in tuxedo shorts as a kind of spirit guide. He presents himself as an advisor, but he jokes around and refuses to give Coleman straight answers.
Hey, Pops, welcome to Dreamland, where you get to live my life. Here I am over here, don't you see me? You? Me?
Because he's secretly the puppet master. For whatever reason, Bobby has power here in the dream world. We will call this entity Dream Bobby. Because here's where the movie is actually quite clever. Dream Bobby lies to Coleman and says he does not want to go back to his own reality, but what he actually wants is for Coleman to deal with Bobby's many life problems. He's flunking school, he's in love with his friend's girlfriend, and his parents don't talk to him. It's a lot. And spoiler, by the end of the movie, Coleman fixes all these things. Dream Bobby is the architect of the whole play, while masquerading in the dream sequences as a kind of goofy, unassuming Shakespearean comic relief character. But he's actually much closer to Loki or Q from Star Trek. We'll have more on Dream Bobby later. This dream sequence establishes our second main plot thread. Retired ritual meditator Coleman wants to find out what happened to longtime wife Gina, and he reasons that since he and punk kid Bobby switched bodies, that Gina and spandex aficionado Lainey must have also switched bodies. But Lainey doesn't believe it when Bobby tries to convince her of the mishap. So Coleman Bobby sets out on a mission to awaken Gina Lainey. And now, even though we have two separate plot threads, they both align really well. If Bobby can romance Lainey, then that should mean Coleman gets Gina back, in theory. During the dream sequences, Coleman asks Dream Bobby for guidance, and Dream Bobby is always mysteriously vague with Coleman about what to do next, you trickster. And all of this has been set up, just the first act of the movie. Now we really get into the story. It turns into a mix of race against time thriller and romantic comedy from this point to the end. It sounds like a weird genre mashup, but it actually works. And real quick, could I get a like and subscribe below? It only takes a second and helps us both out. Make sure you click all next to notifications. Also click the join button to get exclusive perks when you join my channel. I'm not going to go into detail about everything that happens in the second act, so since this is an 80s movie, let's do it in a montage style. Coleman Bobby tries super hard to make Gina Lainey fall for him, including performing a Michael Jackson dance routine. Apparently this killed with the ladies back then. Meanwhile, Lainey's fashionable but mentally unstable boyfriend gets increasingly suspicious and jealous of her spending more time with Bobby, and you just know that situation is going to come to a head in the third act. There are a few subplots that don't ultimately affect the end goal, like Coleman Bobby trying to convince his old friend that he body switched, or the meddling of Lainey's wine-swigging helicopter mom. Eventually, Coleman Bobby persuades Gina Lainey to see the truth about their real identities, and they figure they need to recreate the ritual to undo the body switch. They now have a plan. Also, by late in the third act, Puppet Master Dream Bobby has managed to manipulate Coleman Bobby into solving most of his problems. For example, he takes the SATs and nails it. He takes steps to repair the strained relationship with Bobby's parents, and he has successfully courted Lainey. And after the big action finale, Dream Bobby finally ends his twisted game and everyone goes back to their rightful bodies. Gina and Coleman still plan to happily ever after together into their golden years, more in love now than ever. Bobby and Lainey are young and just beginning their romance. They even decide not to trample the flowers anymore because their characters have grown and matured. Isn't that nice?
Have a nice day.
You too, Bobby.
True love wins out, and maybe the generational gap isn't as wide as they thought. As you can tell, I love this movie. It also has a killer soundtrack. Fair warning, if you watch it, there are a few things that have not aged well. Like this jacket, am I right? Are those tassels? What was Wardrobe thinking? He's supposed to be like a tough guy. Anyway, that's enough blabbing about this classic piece of American cinema. Let's talk about how we turn all of these plot points and details into a fun adventure for your players in a D&D game, or really any tabletop RPG. I think what we should do here is take our 4 major characters and a few story elements and use them as backstory for a mystery adventure for a group of low-level PCs. But note that we're only taking elements as inspiration, because if we try to drop our players' PCs directly into the setup and expect them to play out the plot just like in the movie, it ain't gonna happen. That's the #1 thing to keep in mind. So we keep our core 4 NPCs, Bobby, Lainey, Coleman, and Gina. In my example, I'm going to use those names, but you're obviously going to name your NPCs whatever you want. And we will make Coleman and Gina an important married couple. Maybe they're king and queen, or they're renowned scholars, or they're two high-profile intergalactic senators, or whatever fits your world. The point is, Coleman and Gina are married VIPs, and the plot hook is that they have gone missing. This is our basic setup, how we bring the adventuring party into it. Someone hires the PCs to find Coleman and Gina, or maybe the party needs to find Gina because she has important info for a different quest the party is pursuing. Or you could always make Coleman someone's favorite uncle, so it's personal. Whatever the hook or potential reward is to get the PCs into the adventure, you're obviously going to personalize it to your campaign. So now we have a missing persons mystery, and we're going to use bits of movie exposition as clues and developments for the party. An early clue they find will probably be learning that Coleman and Gina were conducting magical rituals. These rituals were about waking dreams, and they were quite secretive about it. This would be a good clue for the party to learn when they are, say, searching Coleman's secret lab. They find his research, notes about lucid dreaming, maybe hints about crossing into the Feywild for some mysterious purpose. The party will probably conclude that Coleman and Gina were in the middle of a magic ritual and something went wrong. You can have an NPC confirm this, like a maid who once surreptitiously witnessed Coleman and Gina performing their weird routine months ago. The party might try to learn more about the ritual, or maybe even recreate it themselves. In the movie, Bobby and Coleman regularly meet in a dream space where everything is blue-tinted and covered in toilet paper. We can easily sub in the Feywild or some shadow realm or whatever your world equivalent is. Maybe the players go there or get access to Coleman's memories somehow through scrying or a different creative trick. But eventually, we want the party to learn about this other realm and to devise a way to get there. Imagine it like this: the party travels to the Feywild and finds visual echoes of Coleman's last visit there. They see a hazy recreation of Coleman searching for Gina. He's lost, confused, not seeming like himself. Then, he meets with a shadowy figure in the Feywild. Coleman begs this mysterious being, "Where is Gina? How do I get her back?" And now the party knows that Coleman is lost, but also searching for Gina, and this shadowy figure has something to do with it. And now we can talk about Bobby and Lainey. Our two young NPCs are a separate couple from Coleman and Gina. Bobby and Lainey are also somehow tangentially related to Coleman and Gina. Maybe Bobby is Coleman's personal attendant, and Lainey works in Gina's stables. The exact connection can be whatever you want, but what's important is that all four of these NPCs are linked to each other. And a major clue we're going to eventually reveal is that all four of them were in close proximity when the last ritual happened. We want to try to hold on to that clue for as long as we can, because that's a big one. A great way to misdirect in a mystery is to have a subject give a false statement early on in the witness interviews. Then the detective at first proceeds believing this false information is true, eventually getting nowhere. Later, the detective discovers that person lied, and then they work to reveal why the witness lied, which usually results in a big break in the case. So if the party visits Bobby or Lainey to interview them, they're first going to lie to protect themselves. They have fake alibis for that night. Because while Bobby and Lainey are young lovers, their love is in secret. Maybe they're both betrothed to others. Or they are from different socioeconomic backgrounds, so being together is frowned upon. Remember in the movie, Bobby knew he was really Coleman, but Lainey didn't know she was actually Gina at first. So maybe this version of Bobby and Lainey don't know they've been body swapped at all, and they're only lying to protect their illicit affair. Probably when the last ritual happened, Bobby and Lainey were nearby coincidentally. Let's say they were low-key bumping uglies in the stables literally right next door to the ritual space, and that's how they also got sucked into the Feywild switcheroo. There's a chance the party will see through these witnesses' lies with high insight checks or detect thoughts, and that's fine, let it happen. The players are going to learn all the clues eventually, and maybe not in the order you anticipated. At some point, the party will probably deduce that Bobby and Lainey are not themselves, and something strange is afoot.
Bobby, look, you're being really weird. I mean, weirder than usual, and that's pretty weird.
And since this is a TTRPG adventure and not a romantic comedy, someone has to have sinister intentions in all this. So we are going to make Dream Bobby our villain, because here is our ultimate clue, the big reveal of this adventure. Dream Bobby is an ancient evil imprisoned in the Fey realm, or wherever Coleman has been crossing over into during his meditation rituals. Dream Bobby had devised a way to escape to the material plane by stealing Coleman's body, but a mishap occurred when he tried it. The ritual was supposed to be only Coleman and Gina, but unbeknownst to this ancient Fey creature, Bobby and Lainey were also nearby. And this caused everyone to get mixed up in a big psychic soup. Coleman and Gina went into Bobby and Lainey's bodies, and Dream Bobby is pulling the strings from the Fey realm, still seeking a way to manipulate this evolving situation so it ends with him escaping his prison. So we have our adventure hooks, a few NPCs, and a list of clues, and this is really all we need to run this. Now you might be saying, but Jim, you didn't fill in all the blanks. Where did Coleman and Gina actually go? What will the final encounter between the party and Dream Bobby look like? How will the party get the bodies switched back? And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't really matter. Do you remember about 10 minutes ago at the beginning of this video, I promised you a big twist if you stuck with it? Without further ado, here is that twist. Choosing Dream a Little Dream was arbitrary. While I love that campy movie mostly for nostalgia reasons, the details are unimportant.
These nuts. Got him!
My point with all of this, and the secret topic of this video, is that you can take almost any story that interests you and convert it into an adventure for your friends to play. Like, doing Die Hard is easy. Wizard's Tower, big party there with a bunch of people, terrorists take hostages and seal the tower, then the twist is these terrorists are actually just high-class thieves who want to break into the vault in the basement. What's fun about dropping your players into a Raiders of the Lost Ark story is not watching them recreate the exact plot of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's when they decide that instead of going after the Ark, the party is going to use this situation as cover to assassinate high-ranking enemy generals. Or they manage to steal the prize early by studying the enemy's supply routes, then hijacking a caravan wagon to snatch the Ark. That's wild and unexpected, and I would love to run that. Stealing elements from movies and books you love is a fantastic way to run adventures that you will also love. You just have to translate it from a cinematic language to one spoken at the TTRPG table. Mostly by removing the plot and keeping the story. Hopefully this video has shown you that it's not as hard as it sounds. And the real actual topic of this video is that I just wanted to talk about Dream a Little Dream because I know it's a bad movie, but I love it anyway. Until next time, I'm GM Jim. Now go make stories you love.
This is terrific.
I know you like it crunchy.